My focus comes from being organized. If I'm not organized, if my calendar isn't organized, if my desk isn't organized, then I get frustrated. And then when I get frustrated, I walk away from it. So the best way for me to keep my focus is to know each week what my next week's going to look like, building that calendar out, knowing where I'm going to be, organizing it so I'm not running around haphazardly all over the place, making my time most productive. So being organized with the calendar, setting time, blocking time, and even time for lunch or self-learning, reading, all of those things end up on the calendar. Otherwise, they don't happen.
Welcome back to another episode of Thinking That Matters. I am your host, Elizabeth Mahusai, and I am here with my guest for the second time around, Mr. Rudy Frederico. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me out.
So I'm glad to have you back on the show because so much has changed, and yet so much is still the same since last you and I spoke. But we're going to have some new listeners. Tell them who you are, what you do, and then we'll launch in.
Well, great. Again, glad to be back. My name is Rudy Frederico. I'm a franchise consultant and broker with the Franchise Consulting Company. We're a fully integrated franchise solution company out of Miami, Florida, with offices in 16 countries around the world. We help people find their best fit business and connect them to franchise opportunities that might get them to where they want to be in life. We also help small companies who want to expand their footprint and allow them to become the next emerging franchise, whether that's on a regional, national, or even global basis. So we're just out building business and really enjoy doing that.
Oh, I know. I know you actually do enjoy doing that. So, I always like to focus on things around thinking. And, for the listener who may be interested in franchising or wanting to explore it, what type of thinking have you observed from people who are ready to take the step of engaging with a consultant such as yourself?
A lot of folks will start with, do they have just a general business acumen and a likelihood of being successful running a business? If they're coming out of corporate America, they've been involved in running companies, large-scale companies, small-scale companies. They may have some P&L responsibilities and understanding how to read the numbers and interpret the numbers and build the business. But I also think it's important, and I ask all of my clients, why are you doing this? What's your why? What's your emotional motivation to take on the challenges of owning your own business? Because while you might think it's glamorous to be able to set your own schedule, when you work for yourself, you're on 24/7. And that's just the reality of it, all right? You can lock up the doors in your office when you work for somebody else.
But your brain is still thinking.
But your brain is always on when you work for yourself, as is mine, because I work for myself doing this.
That's right.
And so it's not unusual to wake up in the middle of the night and have an idea and I have to go write it down or whatever, because otherwise I'm not going to remember it. And
no, it's so true. It's so true. Well, I think that when you mentioned about you like to ask people their why, because that emotional motivation, I mean, it's, as they say, it's what gets you up in the morning. It's what keeps you up at night. What is your why? Why are you your own business owner in this space?
I've got a piece of paper taped to the mirror in my bathroom, and it says on it, unfulfilled expectations. And what it does is it reminds me that in my past and the people that I've met, my parents, my family, my kids, all of those things, that they have certain expectations of me, and I haven't completed all of those things yet. So I still need to get up every day and go to work. And what I do at work is help people get into business. I love that work, but it doesn't mean that I can just sit back and watch TV because I'm self-employed. I've got to pick up the phone or go to appointments or go to networking events or do the things that help build my business. And I've got to do them every single day. And that reminds me, seeing that in the mirror every morning, that that along with my daily affirmations, that these are the things that help me keep focused on the task and, keep my eye on the prize.
I think that word that you just used is an important one, focus. And, you mentioned when you were talking about someone thinking about franchising, it's they need a strong why you said these words, to take on the challenge of growing a business. And I see that one of the challenges is the need for focus.
Mhm.
And so for you, what's most important about focus for you personally? And then I would also say how you see it play out, the need for focus for those who are engaging in even the discovery process for purchasing a franchise.
My focus comes from being organized. If I'm not organized, if my calendar isn't organized, if my desk isn't organized, then I get frustrated. And then when I get frustrated, I walk away from it. So the best way for me to keep my focus is to know each week what my next week's going to look like, building that calendar out, knowing where I'm going to be, organizing it so I'm not running around haphazardly all over the place, making my time most productive. So being organized with the calendar, setting time, blocking time, and even time for lunch or self-learning, reading, all of those things end up on the calendar. Otherwise, they don't happen.
So
And
true.
that's important. So the focus for me comes from being able to do that. If someone's going to get with me to leave their career and do something different, they're going to have to focus some time on creating that. Other people come to me and they're looking to add some additional income, but keep their current career. And so they're going to have to juggle multiple schedules. How do they keep all that? Well, part of what I share with them is figure out your calendar, know where you're going to be and know when you're going to do it, and put your personal items on there, lunch, kids soccer, whatever those things are, build your calendar around what's most important.
Yes.
And make sure that those, all those things get done. It's kind of like that example of, if you've got all these things you've got to do, and some of them are big rocks and some of them are little rocks and some of them are sand, and you got to put them all in the jar, right? We've all heard that
Right.
analogy. Well, put your big rocks on the calendar,
First.
put the little rocks on the calendar, and then put the sand on the calendar and fill the calendar with all the things that you've got to do, including flexible time. When can I be reactive to things? Because people will just call you out of the blue and expect you to jump. And you have to have the time and flexibility to do that as well. I build all of those things into my calendar and my day so that when I get up in the morning, all I have to do is follow my own direction and know where I'm going, and I make it
I
happen.
love that. All you have to do is follow your own direction. So the person listening, I think just helpful in the sense of them understanding how did you get there, right? Because so organization's important to you and you've been working diligently on building out that time organization. What were some of the key things you did to get to where you are now, where you just have to follow the plan that you've created for yourself?
I knew that was a shortcoming of mine, so I hired help. So I partnered with you to help me, just understand better organizing, time blocking, what's critical, when to say no to certain things, because I constantly get requests for all kinds of silly things. Can you be on my board and can you help with my nonprofit? All of those things are important, but you can't be everything to everybody. And so sometimes no has to be the answer in order to keep focus on your own
Your
prize, your
business.
own goal. Managing distractions and those kinds of things are all part of the way of life. Every week, one of the first things to ask myself, and you ask me when I get to chat with you, is who did you say no to today?
I know I was going to say that's one of the things we agreed.
Yeah.
That it was an important question to consistently put before you because, we're both people. We love being around people. We love helping people. And it can be really easy to say yes too often. And then there is no time to do the things necessary for building our business. So I do appreciate that. And I'm also thinking, because you said that it's a matter of really following through on the plan that you've already created, I want to attach that to focus, because oftentimes someone listening, they've planned, they're trying to orchestrate their plan, but things aren't happening in the timing that they either hope or want or need. And it leaves us as business owners, whether it's we want to call it a lean time or a challenging time, talk a little bit about that, because you operate in a space where it can be a really long sales cycle for someone to say, I'm interested to, I now own a franchise. So talk a little bit about that.
So I deal in a world where my sales cycle is 4 to 6 months. So it does take time. And even anybody who engages on the front end, by the time I get them to only half of those people actually take action and do something. So I spend a lot of time with people who actually don't do anything.
Right.
Maybe that's just a learning experience for them. Maybe they come back a year or two later. That's fine. They're always welcome. But with that in mind, it's real easy to get discouraged if you hit a 2 or 3 month run where nothing comes in, right? I've got a plan for those kinds of things, because conversely, I could have a month where it all comes together and there's just an abundance, right? But then some of that abundance has to be put away for the next lean time, because it's going to come.
Yeah.
That's just the cycle. Everything in Wall Street and our economy and everything else all runs in cycles, and my business is no different. And most businesses are no different. It goes up and down as you go. So the key is the focus to just head down, pick up the phone, make the next call, set the next appointment, collect the next application, whatever the steps are, execute with consistency and persistency, and keep the focus. The same thing applies to when things are good, right? Because it's easy to go, okay, things are all better now. Well, you just set yourself up for the next downturn, right? And so the best time to double down is when things are
really good. Yeah.
And so there's prosperity. And so you share the successes, and people want to be associated with successful people. And so you just keep pushing and you just keep pushing. Now, does that wear thin? Sure. You have got a plan, even in the planning of the calendar that we talked about, downtime, recovery time. Your brain has to recover, just like you do after the gym, where you have to recover. So you have to, you can't go 24/7 all the time. So there's play time and, a ball game or social time with friends, around the golf, whatever it is. When I play golf with my regular golf buddy, I don't want to talk about business until we get done with the round. Like, just table it. We'll have breakfast later. We'll talk about your business and my business, whatever. And during the round of golf, I'm out. I'm unplugged. And
awesome.
And you need that for your brain.
Yeah, it's a great it's a great place for a reset, because there's so much output as a business owner, specifically solopreneurs for sure, because you're managing multiple roles within the overall company, and it requires a lot mentally, emotionally, physically. So I think the reset, the refresh is really important. A couple of things that you said there that I want to highlight. You talked about the need to execute. You have the plan, but then because you can have a pretty calendar and then do nothing that you have on the calendar. So it is about executing. It's about knowing when to say no, and it's about executing. And I love, you said one of my most favorite things, you said with persistency and consistency. And I love the concept of being persistently consistent and consistently persistent. And that is an excellent phrase for whether you're in lean times or you're in times of plenty. The same is required of you.
100%.
And so I love that you brought that up. Now, for you, let's think practical just for a moment, because for people, I think especially in areas where let's say real estate or mortgage, things where there could be a prolonged period of leanness. It could be because of the market. It could be for other reasons. But I would love if you would just share a couple of practical ways you've found to be prepared in and out of seasons of plenty.
First is save for the rainy days, right? So you can't just, hey, I got a big check this week and go spend it all, right? So part of it has to be put away for taxes. Part of it has to be away for lean times. And you've got to factor all of that in when you're running your own business, because you never know, when it's just a lean time or you're sick or there's a pandemic. All of those things can be out there, all the unknowns, and we've got to be prepared for those. So having some plan to be able to do those things, always a critical piece. I think it's also important to again, just keeping the focus and doing the things that work, but being flexible enough to adapt to a change in the environment or in the market or in regulations, right?
Oh,
So,
interesting.
you know,
Okay.
you might be in the CBD business and the state might make a law change. You have to be able to adapt to that. So you've got to be plugged into what may change in your environment that can impact your business. We're dealing with one of the states in the U.S. here is now looking to regulate my business a little bit. And so we've got to, you know, we battle it a little bit, but we also want to make it, you know, if they're going to regulate it, fine, regulate it, but regulate it so that we can still do it, right? If you want some
Yes.
reporting or whatever, fine, we'll do those kinds of things. But don't make it so onerous that we can't bring our services to the public, right? But we have to be able to adapt to that. Otherwise, we may lose that state and other states might jump on board and it could ripple across the country.
Right.
So those are things that we've got to be in tune with to understand how that works. Someone in the mortgage business, same thing. They could, you know, rates change, it impacts their
Right.
business. Regulatory things might change, things that they can do and can't do. They may be registered in multiple states, and maybe it's better to focus on Oklahoma than it is in Texas because something's going on here.
It's so true. And you bring up, I think, an important point because, of course, in my space, I also interact with a lot of real estate agents. And with the NARS settlement and the adjustments that are necessary in some states, more providing more specific contract language change than others, you know, it's creating a space where you can't just sit on the fringe and think you know what's going on. You've got to engage and educate yourself on what's happening in your world to be an informed owner in that case. And you know, I think it's also important too. I think that's probably a good segue to think as we're growing in our knowledge and our understanding, not only for our own business, but what's happening in the market or the world itself. It leads me to think, okay, we need to scale. We want to scale. Most people don't buy a business to just maintain some status quo or to do just enough. I recognize some do, but most, that's not their mindset. They want to scale their business. They want to grow their business. So for you, what is your thinking around scaling a business?
Scaling has to come from typically bringing in other resources to be able to grow and do more, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs, they're in control of everything. So it's coming to the mindset you got to give up control of certain things in order to do other things that you might be better at. So for example, if I get bogged down doing accounting when I can give my receipts and statements and so forth to the bookkeeper, yes, I got to pay the bookkeeper to do that for me, but my expertise is in helping people get into businesses. So if I'm spending more time doing that, I can grow and scale my business by offboarding the accounting work.
Right.
Or appointment setting or social media posting or, you know, things that, you know, yes, I'm capable of doing, but I can't do everything. There's only so many hours in the day. And so I can be a certain level of productivity as a solopreneur, but I can do 2 or 3 times that if I outsource certain things. And what I've learned in the process to do that is, well, you've got to be able to afford those resources. So my plan was to start with getting better with technology to leverage more time within my business so that I could then get to the next level and afford the outside resource. So there's a plan to get there from doing it all myself, doing it better myself, engaging with you on time management, booking calendar links themselves versus me calling to set an appointment and then having the appointment. So leveraging those tools to be able to do that. Now I can bring somebody in to set appointments for me, leveraging the next level, outsourcing the books, next level. Well, eventually I can have 2, 3, 4 people on the team, doing more people to then scale my business. At the end of the day, I don't want to just get by, to your point, right? The phrase that everybody knows is go forth and prosper, not go forth and survive. And we go forth and prosper so that when we're prosperous, we can help others who can't help themselves within our family, within our community, within our whatever, right? So the whole point of prospering is to be able to give back. If you're just getting by, you're just taking care of yourself. And in my opinion, that's just selfish. If you've got more to give, then you can achieve more.
Well, it's interesting that when you talked about prospering for the purpose of giving back, really speaks heavily into the emotional motivation. Why do it? It's not just why buy a franchise or why become a business owner. We need that. It's also the deeper why, the emotional connection to the why. And when we can really think about prospering for the purpose of giving back, now that really can inform our daily activity, to the motivation that we need to engage in doing the things that help to move our business forward. So I love that you brought that. I love that you brought that up. And just to go back for a moment, you talked about leveraging technology and some of the things that you've done. So how difficult was it from a thinking standpoint to begin to allow technology to become more pervasive in your business? Because I truly think that is for those of us who are older, right? It sometimes can be hard to give up control to what we believe to be technology. Speak to that for me.
So in the beginning, I would set reminders by putting slips of paper in my paper calendar book, my Franklin planner or whatever. Yes. And on this day, call this person and call this person and call this person. Well, now we have CRMs, and CRMs allow you to schedule time so that you don't have clients fall through the cracks and you don't forget to call them back. If you were to have a conversation, say, you know what, I need a couple of weeks to do that. I need to be able to put it on my calendar 2 weeks from now to remind me to call.
Right.
Because I'm going to get 100 distractions between now and then, and I'm going to forget. That's just the reality. So leveraging the CRM and its capacities, learning to be a master of the tools in your business, knowing which end of the shovel to hold, right? So you can't dig the hole right if you're holding the shovel upside down. So understand how to use the tools, set appointments, reminders. I'll even I've got a meeting with the client that's a week out, the day before to send them a reminder, and 2 days before that to book the conference room to make sure I've got a place to meet with them. So all of those things get on the task list to be checked off at the appropriate time. Otherwise, they fall through the cracks, and we're having to sit in the hallway because I didn't book a room. That
it's real.
It's real. So it happens. So certainly mastering the CRM, being able to do more things, using our Google tool to set appointment times where I can just take a link and say, listen, and I'm not a big self-service guy. I don't like self-service, but I'm finding that this technology helps me manage the business because my client can pick a time that's good for them, knowing what my availability is.
Yes.
So you look at your calendar, you pick one of these times, I will be there. And my calendar is set up, and I've learned to use it where it automatically creates buffers between appointments. It automatically gives me time to get between appointments. All of those things are baked into it, so I don't get double booked or overlapped or whatever else. So once you've figured out how to make those things work for you, leverage the tool properly, then it's made me more efficient. I can give the same link to my appointment setter, and then she just opens up my calendar and goes, okay, I got you on the line. I can do Tuesday, I can do Thursday. What's best for you?
Which is best.
And so she's got the calendar right there in front of her to be able to pick that time. That makes her more efficient. So the efficiencies trickle down through the whole process.
I completely agree. And I've said on, I'm sure, multiple episodes that it was in the early days of Fred Shots in Texas, it was one of my big holdouts was going fully digital on the calendar. Because, those of us who are 50 or older, we were leveraging paper calendars because there was no digital or electronic calendar. And I also love that you brought up the CRM piece of it, because I believe that a lot of people who are starting businesses or they've not really ever had to utilize CRM significantly, they underutilize it. And it's really such an amazing resource to manage, stay on top of, drip, as we call it, from a marketing standpoint, your potential end client or your present clients. So I think those are all great technology pieces.
It's also good to be able to extract metrics out of it. So if you've got a goal to do a certain number of sales or transactions in a month or a year or whatever, well, you can go back through that history and say, I needed to talk to this many people to get this many applications, to get this many decisions, to get this many deals closed. And if I set a goal that is I'm going to grow it bigger, I can reverse engineer those metrics and know that I've got to talk to this many more people to get this many more applications, to get this many more appointments, to get this many more deals.
Yes.
And so now you know exactly what you're chasing and not just driving haphazardly, right? So,
It makes a big difference. I think oftentimes, well, some of us love data and some people feel like they're not sure what to do with the data. But, before we even started recording, we were talking about how because you've stuck so long with what we call the ideal schedule in the coaching world, and it's evolved and how you use it has evolved, that you're even extracting data from how you map out your weeks to better and more effectively map out your future weeks.
Absolutely. The ability to not just set the schedule for next week, but I also look back at what I did. I amend last week's so that I can track and see what I did and measure how many hours are on appointments, how many hours are networking, how many hours are just coffees with people who want to chat. And by managing my time and restricting that time and setting goals along that, I can then set next week's calendar more efficiently and every week get better at how I do that and create more time. And then time can make more deals.
It's so true. And I think the data specifically, I was having a conversation with Fred a little earlier about, we hear a lot about return on investment. Most people attribute that to return on, we invest a certain amount of money, but there's actually ROTI, return on time invested. And I know that's one of the things that in some of our most recent conversations, we've been looking at. What is the return on your time invested? And then making informed choices about how you choose to invest your time to get the best return for your time.
100%. It's, there's certain things in my business that I need to be the one to do it. And there are certain things that I can get help to do. And it's what it costs me to get it done by somebody else multiplies by me being more productive with the time that I have. So it's easily worth the time to do that. I'll get a tenfold return by having someone else setting appointments.
So true.
That's a no-brainer.
Well, because the you spending an hour, and we talk about this in really looking at the value of your time, the amount of money that you could make if you actually stayed in your sweet spot for an hour versus, let's say, hypothetically paying someone $20 an hour to get on the phone or to set the appointments. I mean, there's just no comparison between the two. But I think oftentimes as business owners, we can be very short-sighted in that we hesitate to invest in those resources because, to something that you said, I think is very, very important, because we have yet to figure out how to better use the resources that we currently have more efficiently, more effectively. So if there's someone listening, right, and you could give what you believe are your top 2 or 3, I mean, you take your pick, but ways you would challenge them to think about their business, their time, their resources, what would you share with the listener?
The first I would say is to all you control freaks out there, it's okay to let go of things as long as you follow up on whoever's doing it for you to make sure that they're getting it done. So whether that's social media posts or things, content creations or booking time or whatever, as long as you're getting the results, it's okay to let those things go. The second thing is, whatever you do well, maximize those things that are attributed to you to do that, and what you don't do well but still have to get done, that's what you pick to outsource. So in my world, I don't like doing the books and the accounting, and so I outsource that, but it still has to be done. P&Ls have to be done, and taxes have to be filed. And I could do them. I know how to do them. I don't want to do them. I don't like to do them. And so my guy does them, right?
Right.
And so that's okay to do that. And it's a significant return on time invested.
So true.
To get somebody for a couple $100 to do those things, whatever that is. So I think, and then outsourcing whatever you don't do well,
outsource it.
Find someone to teach you how to do it well, or someone to do it for you. And either one of those is okay. You then become the manager of this enterprise as opposed to the doer of this enterprise. And the manager oversees the fact that the accounting got done and the marketing got done. And now I can pick up the phone and have these meaningful appointments.
Yeah.
And then I need you to send this out for me. I need you to send that out for me. And just the stuff that has to go out in the mail or the stuff that other things have to be done. Other people can do some of those things for you or create some tools or efficiencies to do that, right? Whether that's, batching mailing labels as opposed to typing them out one at a time, or, those kinds, anything that you're going to redo, templates for emails.
Oh my goodness. I have so many templates for emails. Yes.
Tweak them as they need to be tweaked. But the core message in a lot of my stuff is the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, agreed. That is goodness, even just that efficiency around email makes a massive difference in better and more effectively using our own time. We don't have time to delve into that, but it is so true on that piece. I love it. Let the control freaks need to let it go.
Let it go, baby. Let it go. Trust me.
I love it.
Trust me.
No, it is true. It's so very true. Now, you are getting ready to enter into, well, technically your entire year is full of events and ways in which you are promoting people knowing about the franchise space. Share with the audience some ways that they can learn more as well as how they can connect with you directly.
We do, within our company, the franchise consulting company does trade shows, and we bring franchise companies to set up booths, and people can come to the shows. We're going to be in New York next weekend, and then 2 weeks after that, we'll be in Washington, D.C. In October, we're going to be in Chicago later in September. In October, we'll be in Washington, D.C. and in Houston. And in November, we'll be here in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area at the Mesquite Convention Center the first weekend in November. So if you want to learn about franchising or franchising your business, you certainly can come out to the shows. On the Fridays before each of those events, I'll be doing seminars. So people are welcome to come to those seminars. No cost. Come learn more about franchising. I'll be doing those and scheduling those. To connect with me, easiest way is just to text the word Rudy to 26786. You can also see our show schedule at franexpousa.com and see where those shows are going to be. The Friday before will be, again, those seminars that I'm doing. But if you want to attend any of those or learn more about it, you can also visit my website, franchisewithrudy.com. Get my background and also send me your contact information so that I can reply back and we can have a conversation.
I love it because they don't have to live in Texas for you to be able to serve them, right?
I serve people all over the country. I'm working with a client in Phoenix. I'm working with a client in Virginia. I've even had a local client here in the DFW area who was interested in putting one of our franchises in Dubai. And so we can make that happen as well. We've got a global footprint and happy to help folks anywhere that they are interested in doing so.
I love it. Well, I am always appreciative of being able to glean from your decades, truly your decades of experience, not only as a franchise owner, but also as a consultant in that space. I always like to close out with the question, why do you believe it's important to cultivate thinking that matters?
You have to have a plan. I mean, everybody has a goal or what they want to be or what they want their lifestyle to be, but you need a plan to get there. And that plan has to be thoroughly vetted mentally and emotionally to make sure that you get on the right path. So if I want to get from here to Chicago and I want to set a path, I need to know what my plan is, what routes I'm going to take and what vehicle I'm going to use. And all of that comes from planning. Planning comes from critical thinking and understanding that I haven't missed any of the pieces, because otherwise I've built a puzzle with holes in it and nobody wants to see a puzzle with holes in it.
I love that planning comes from critical thinking. And so much of our conversation today, when we think about focus, when we think about scaling, it really, for you in the season that you've been in, it's very much been about really honing in your skills in that area of planning. And it's freed up the mental and emotional space for you to think, because it's interesting, can be a very symbiotic, right? The preparation provides for critical thinking. Critical thinking allows you to better plan. I said it wrong. Planning allows you to critically think, and critical thinking allows you to better plan. So they both.
And it evolves. It evolves over time, and you get better at it. So, my planning of the calendar each week over the last year and a half that we've been working together on that has gotten better. And so I've created efficiencies in being on the right side of town and putting all the appointments for one area together as opposed to running back and forth and spending time behind the windshield. All those efficiencies have made me better at what I do because I think through it and I don't just jump on the horse and ride haphazardly through the field.
I'm getting a visual picture.
Yeah, no, me on a horse. No, you don't want to see me on a horse. Trust me. But that's the idea of, I've got reins on this horse, and so I know where I'm going.
You can control it. You can control it. I love that. I love that. Well, Rudy, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with the audience. And everyone, I want to encourage you, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And also, if you've not already, take time to give us a 5-star rating. That way, more people are able to benefit from the amazing expertise and information that we have been able to hear from Rudy today. So again, you can get more information by texting Rudy, R-U-D-Y, to 26786. Thanks so much.
Thank you.